joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want you fired up about self-help. My guest today is B.C. Dottie, and we are talking about her book, Just a Little Backtalk, A Journey of Faith, Fortitude, and Femininity. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, BC. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning. It's so great to be here.
I am so excited that you are on, and I can't wait to talk to you about your book. I love talking about empowerment stuff, and especially for women, because we need to be all that we can be, because we touch the lives of so many. But before we do that, as is tradition here, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. There may be a few folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So my first question to you is, what makes you you?
Well, I am a wife and a mother of 3 beautiful girls. I am a inspirational enthusiast. I am a very, very firm believer in embracing the spiritual part of life and making the best of everything that you can, just finding light in the dark.
Absolutely, and I love that. Now, one of your mottos is, and I love this, when I talk about enlightened, inspired, and empowered, this is definitely you, because you say, disabled, maybe, defeated, never. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you find that when you say that, when you walk in that you are, other people are inspired when you say that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I try and carry myself in a particular way to where I'm able to project happiness, even though I did have a life change. And sometimes it's really hard to embrace that, knowing like negative change. So you have to try and make it as positive as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm always inspired by folks that choose to concentrate on the positive as opposed to the negative. There are going to be some things that are there and that you have to deal with as a breast cancer survivor, and having had surgery and all that. There's some things that I have to deal with. But the point is that we are still here and we get to move forward and we don't have to be defeated. So I love the fact that you have that outlook as well. Love it, love it. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that along this journey called life, the time presented itself to share your story in the form of a book?
Well, I could not have said it better. That's exactly what I did. I took my energy, which had the potential to go very negative, and I just decided that, you know what, let me do a form of self-help and a little bit of therapy. And before I actually say something, let me think about it. Let me think about how it might impact others. And being a very positive person, that's very important. So I make sure that I was able to put it down and think about it and how can I encourage others instead of really saying, oh, this is horrible. No, this isn't a journey, because it could always be worse. So let's look at what's positive about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Now, the title of your book, Just a Little Backtalk, A Journey of Faith, Fortitude, and Femininity. I like it. And why did you decide that that was the proper title for your book?
Because most cases when people have some type of injury. I had a spinal cord injury, and it left me with paralysis from the waist down. And thank God it was temporary. So it's really hard to try and be that diva and really embrace that feminine type of personality that you have, that jazz that never really goes away unless you allow it to die. So I just thought about how can I help others to see just because you've had a life change, you don't have to change the way you live your life.
Oh, I like that. Just because you've had a change in life doesn't mean you have to change the way you live your life. That
exactly.
is a good one. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
You know, this is why it is so important that we have guests on that can do at least one of the three things. And I know people always go, she always says enlighten, inspire, and empower, because it is so important. When you share nuggets of wisdom like that, someone's going to hear that, and that's going to be the confirmation that they need, or that's going to be the thing that really gets them, that sets them on fire and says, that's it, I'm doing it. Whatever it is, that positive thing that they've been contemplating, that's what they needed to hear. So I love it. I love it. Now, Now, when you were writing the book and putting everything together, did you have a particular reader in mind? Like, were you writing this for someone that is as young as perhaps high school age, or were you thinking someone that is older than college age? Does it matter if they're male or female? What were you thinking about there?
No, it is not gender specific. I actually make references to males and females where, in the book, I speak of different situations that I myself experienced while, I was in rehabilitation, and it happened at one of the most, precious times of year to me in my book, and that's at Christmas. And that was very hard to be secluded. So, I make sure that I share little words of wisdom that I was able to take from every person I encountered and look at it in a positive way and share that with my readers. So there is not really an age. I would honestly say from 18 and up, anyone basically can relate to it because I try to keep it as real as I could, if you will.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of, keeping it real, there are up days and there are down days in everyone's life. So thank you for, being transparent in that and sharing how you're feeling in the book. Now, you've mentioned doing those things that you really enjoy. Christmas happens to be one of my favorite holidays. I absolutely love it. I've always loved it, even as a child. And I know that when you are anything less than your usual self, if you're not as positive, if you're not feeling well, if you're in a bad way, I know that I had my surgery right around holiday time, so I was not my usual self. How were you able to get through those holidays and still be wife and mom and still try to keep your family uplifted, even though you were dealing with things from a personal perspective?
What I did was I completely removed my feelings away from everything. I overcompensated, and I made sure that I accentuated the positive and eliminated the negative, because depression just strikes up at that, those very precious times of year, regardless if you have a life change or not. So on top of that, with my life change, it was just very important for me to make my husband, especially, my husband and my children, that's really hard, to go for a test one day and then come home in a wheelchair a month and a half later. And, the changes you go through, with everything being uncertain. So you just keep everything 10 steps above normal and happier, and just don't give up. Keep the faith.
That is so true and so important. Thank you for that reminder. Now, speaking of spouses, when things go on in our lives, many times you forget that your family members, your friends, and all are in a way going through it with you on a different degree, of course, but they're there for you, or at least they say that they want to be. How did you find that your support team, be it that that's your husband or friends and family, what were some of the things that they did that you found to be really helpful to you during that time? Now, I know you can't give us all the examples, but were there one or two things that they really did that you found to be comforting during that time?
Um, just to just to see that they still they still were able to visit me and smile. But it was really hard. It's really hard to be honest with you. It's really hard to answer that question because when the type of change came, which I think you can relate to as well, when that type of change came, your eyes, your face, everything changes. So my children, to a certain degree, were actually scared of me. They didn't want to hurt me, and they couldn't understand why I looked that way. So they were actually scared. So I had to break down that barrier and force them to interact and embrace me, as well as my husband. I literally watched him every day, day in and day out, transform himself, and he was withering, and that was breaking my heart. So I had to put on that happy face and convince myself, you have to be strong because it, like you said, it's tearing, it's wearing on the entire family. So that's very important and I have so many instances, in my book where I just basically put it on the line, and I just always kept it positive. I keep it real, but I keep it positive. I'm never destructive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
And
important.
I love the fact that you share that transparency, and I think that that's why people are inspired by your story and by your sharing in the book, because that's real. You can't tell the story without telling the story. If you're going to tell it, you got to tell it all, right? So
Exactly.
and that's what people, I think, really they want to know. They want to know how was that? Was it difficult? Did you feel sad? Did you feel happy? Because I know those are the questions that I got. How was it adjusting to your after body? How is it? When you wake up and you realize, well, I'm still alive, praise the Lord, but I'm not the way that I was before. So
Amen.
in your sharing that is so important. So thank you for being honest with that. And you know what, you are right. We do see the pain in their eyes. And we always want to be our best for them.
Exactly.
And I think that says a lot about who you are. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, how would you, in all that you have been through, how would you encourage someone to stay positive when they are going through a dark time? Considering you've been able to, move through it and you've been able to write about it, how do you find that you're encouraging others to get through their personal dark times?
The very first thing that I always tell them, and that's very important, right after I tell them, embrace your faith. You have to have that faith, and that will see you through your darkest times. But the very next thing I tell them is to stay away from negative people. So many times I've had people tell me, "Oh my God, you just can't catch a break, can you?" And I'm like, "Oh, quite contrary. I'm constantly catching breaks because guess what? I came to. I woke up, and no, I wasn't the same way that I was before. But guess what? I'm going to do everything I can to embrace myself the way that I want to be perceived. And no, just because I'm in a wheelchair, you're not going to speak over me or look through me. Hello, I have a voice and I will be heard, and I'm going to have the right spirit when you hear me, because God listens to everything.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, BC, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, the title of one of my books is Just a Little Backtalk, A Journey of Faith, Femininity, and Fortitude. And that can be found on Amazon. It can be located at Barnes & Noble. If you choose not to purchase or cannot afford to, you can go to the Houston Public Library. I have several different other outlets that you can find it. Also, my website is reason4theseason.net. And I can be found on Twitter as well at @Dottie.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. My guest today is V.C. Dottie, and we are talking about her book, Just a Little Backtalk, A Journey of Faith, Fortitude, and Femininity. I love it. Now, my next question for you is, how would, as a woman of faith, how would you encourage someone to remain faithful, to stay focused while they're going through such a trying time? And you've mentioned that you are a woman of faith, and I know here on Faith Talk Radio, that is one of the things that really keeps us going as well as our faith. But how did that seem to work out for you personally?
Well, I've always been very strong in my faith, and I tell you, when my journey, my true journey started, it increased my faith, and I knew that there's a reason for everything happening. Sometimes we just don't know why at the time, or maybe sometimes maybe it's not meant for you to know, but if we're fortunate enough to realize the actual purpose. I think that my journey actually happened because I was just doing the 9 to 5, and so on and so forth, 22 years, working. But, my attention was needed elsewhere. So my journey took place and God rerouted me. Now I do a lot of His work, and I make sure I spread His word as well as encouraging people, of all ages, any sex, any religion, anything. God is God, and it's just great that He's allowed me to get up out that chair and go do some work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell you, it is a beautiful thing to have this new lease on life, right? And I tell everyone, if you've ever had a surgery and the anesthesiologist took you down and brought you back up, then that is a beautiful thing. Take advantage of that reset button that you were given and make the most of it. So I agree with you on that. Now, when someone is reading Just a Little Backtalk, should they read it from cover to cover, like read it straight through? Do you suggest that they perhaps digest it chapter by chapter, so to speak? What's the best way to really get the most out of reading the book?
I would advise them to just dive right on in from cover to cover. If they want to flick through and kind of see, because I do have pictures in there, and I have pictures of me pouting and not, being too receptive to what I'm being told. And the thing that has really touched me the most about quite a few of my readers is they tell me that, hey, when I was reading your book, I felt as if you were right there talking to me. And it got me almost emotional, because that's exactly what I wanted to accomplish. I don't want to speak to you. I want to talk with you. And even though you might not I might not be right there to hear your response. If it's being understood and received the way that I want to, like I want to embrace you and help you through your journey, that's all I need. That's great.
I love that. I love that. Now, for someone who is interested in writing about a life experience, what would you say is the most important thing to express to their audience? What's the best way to really get that message out there?
The best way is to think about your personality and think about just imagine that you're going to a function to where you're going to see all of your friends and you haven't seen them in years and you want to catch them up on the last 5 years of your life. And you just think about how you want to come across and what type of image you want them to see and feel and put that in writing. And you go back and reread it and you're good. If you're satisfied with it, no one can critique your work like you can.
You are so right about that. And sometimes we are our hardest critic as well. So you're definitely right about that. Now, for someone who may be reading this book and instead of reading just for entertainment use, let's say, they're reading this because they're trying to strengthen their walk, their faith walk. Do you think that they would be reading your book from a different perspective? Would it be a different read for that person? Or do you think you were able to share your story in a way that is everyday practical, but it's also sharing your faith walk as well?
Yes, I agree with it exactly the way you phrased it. It's everyday practical, but in my everyday practical real life, I'm going to always embrace God because he's the only one that really saw me through it. He allowed me to realize it is a journey and it's not some horrible, horrible bad disaster. It could have been had I allowed that green-eyed monster of depression and anger and everything to take over, but I kept it as positive as I could. I fought those moments off because they were there, but I did fight them. So,
And thank you for saying that, because I think that so many times, and not knocking social media, hey, we're all on social media, right? But sometimes I think if we're not careful, we think that everyone's life is always just the 100 happy, because that's what we tend to share most often. But in real life, we do have those days where it's like, I just want to sit here. I just want to sit here today. I don't want to dampen anyone else's mood, but I just want to breathe. I just want to be thankful for this moment. And in this second of now, I don't want the rah, rah, rah. I just want to sit here. And thank you for saying that it's okay to just breathe. Yeah.
And it's normal.
So important. Thank you for sharing that part. Now, I know that I don't want you to give the whole book away or anything like that. And listeners, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. You got to buy the book to see how it ends. We're not going to tell you that part. But if there's one thing, BC, that I'm gonna ask this way. Let me ask it differently, the way that I was thinking. Was there any particular part of the book that you found to be the hardest section or chapter to write? Flip side of the coin, was there any particular section that really made you smile because you were sharing that part of the story as well?
You know what? It was so therapeutic for me. The entire book was easy flowing, and it was just so therapeutic. There wasn't one part that stuck out. The beginning, let me retract. The beginning was very hard because that's when I had to share what actually happened and sometimes when it's still really new or very traumatic, you relive it each time. So
Yeah.
I think you have to action with it.
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. I don't think that people really realize that, especially when it is new and you're sharing your story, that we are re-triggered, and the same way that when we see certain videos that's out there in the world and we go, nope, don't want to see that because it triggers us when we're sharing our personal stories. It still can be a little fresh. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're so right.
Absolutely. So thank you for mentioning that, because there might be someone who wants to share their story, but they're having a tough go at it. And I think the thing that both of us are saying is that it's okay if it's still a little raw. You can share later. Maybe right now isn't the time, but there will come a time when you're able to share and it not trigger you quite as much. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Now, for that person out there that is thinking about being an author, now their book might not necessarily be about a personal experience. They want to write, science fiction or fiction in general. Do you have any bit of advice for them when it just comes to the process itself, with perhaps how to choose your cover, or how to select a publishing company, or to self-publish, or times, how to choose the perfect time to write? Do you have any author advice for that person?
Just do your research. There's so many different avenues. There's almost no excuse for you not being able to become a published author, especially if that is something you're truly wanting to do and that you will find rewarding. I encourage that to the utmost. Just shop around. There's so many different ways, from self-publishing, which is, in my book, self-publishing is the best way for me, because I did not want someone, I had such passion about my real experience, I didn't want someone changing my words to what they wanted it to say. I wanted you to hear word for word what I had to say and how I wanted it said.
You are so right about that. And with it being your story, I can 1000% understand why that was important, because that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I don't know, you guys. I think I got unplugged. I'm having a hard time. Can you guys hear? Can you hear me? I can't.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
I can't hear. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got you back. Okay, great. Thank you. So let's give those 2 seconds. I apologize. Okay, so yeah, let me ask the next question, because I don't think I could hear. I feel like everything went dead for about 10 seconds there. So hold on 1 second. In fact, yes, let's mute and start over. Oh my goodness. Well, VC, thank you so much for spending time with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I think that I can truthfully say that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered someone today. Your book is definitely doing that.
Great.
So thank you for spending time with us here. Now, before I let you go, one last time, if you would please remind everyone, what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes, definitely. It's Just a Little Backtalk, a journey of faith, fortitude, and femininity. It can be purchased on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. The local public library should possibly have copies of it. So it's just, it's out there, and I can be reached at, my website is reason4theseason.net, and I can also be followed on Twitter at VC Dottie.
I love it. Thank you again for being on the show.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. It was such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, with you as well. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us here this morning as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day. So much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want to get you fired up about a story that talks about forgiving yourself, about reassurance and self-acceptance. Now, my guest today is Jessie Thompson, and we're talking about her book, Waiting for a Miracle. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Jessie. Thank you so much for joining me for our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. Now, before we talk about your book, as is tradition here on the show, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps a few people out there that may be unfamiliar with your work. So first question, Jessie, who would you say you are? What makes you you?
Okay. I write Christian novels. I enjoy writing Christian novels. I wrote Waiting for a Miracle is my third book that I wrote. I just enjoy creative writing, and I'm not a big reader, but I enjoy creative writing.
Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that life simply presented it along your path?
I've always liked writing, but I've never thought about writing a book until life brought me to that point. And ever since I wrote my first book, I was always excited to see what goes on with another book. And I wrote my second book, and now I'm working on my third book.
Now, the title of your book, Waiting for a Miracle, the book that we're going to discuss today, how did you come about that title?
When I was younger, I used to write poetry just for entertainment, and I started writing short stories as well. And I had wrote this story and entitled it "Waiting for a Miracle," and I didn't know where I was going with that title until I came across writing this book, and I was like, okay, that title goes well with the story, so that's the way I came across with that title.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. Now, when you were writing and putting the book together, did you have a particular reader in mind? For example, did you include like high schoolers in that audience, or were you thinking perhaps a little older than college age? What's the ideal age range there?
When I first started writing the book, I was writing it for a general audience, but as I started getting feedback for it, I realized that it was not exactly for a younger group of people. It was maybe from 15 years old and older, because of the subject matter. The younger generation might not understand it.
I can understand that. Now, when reading the book, do you suggest that they read it like a traditional novel from cover to cover, or should they kind of break it down into chapter by chapter, in that they really need to read each chapter in order to understand the next?
No, it's not that in detail that they have to read it chapter to chapter. They could go from cover to cover. And most people that have read the book have told me once they get started and once they get past that first chapter, it's a page turner in itself.
And I love it when, when you have a really good book and you just don't want to put it down. And especially in a time frame where we're so used to, watching on demand television, those favorite shows of ours that we watch and we get to watch them when we want and we can binge watch it and like tune out the world. I love it when we can find a book that we can do the same thing with. I think that is just absolutely awesome. I love it. I love it. Now,
Yes.
in choosing the genre for your book, why was it important for you to make sure that Waiting for a Miracle would be appropriate for as a Christian novel?
Because I'm talking on a Christian level, I'm talking about faith. I'm talking about a little girl who has lost her faith in God because of a situation that happened, and how she's trying to gain her faith back so she can move on with her life. Because I realize that sometimes in life, we go through things and we might even get angry with God, and sometimes we'll lose our faith along the way.
Absolutely. There's someone right now who's nodding their head saying, "Yep, that has happened to me." And it is amazing how the more we find that we talk to people, the more that we realize that people are like us and we are like other people. We may look different, sound different, live in a different part of the world, but there are so many things that we find overlap in. So you are right about that. Now, without giving it all away, of course, can you tell us a little bit about the personality that you gave the main character, and why was it important that you constructed in that way?
The main character, I gave her a strong personality because of the fact that she started out strong. She started out on a strong foundation from the way she was raised. And as she went along with the incident that happened and things that went on in her life, she always came back to the strong foundation that was instilled in her as a child. And that is what kept her going.
I love that. Being able to persevere and to keep moving forward, because I tell you, life will, kind of throw you some doozies there every now and again, and to be able to keep moving forward, I love that. Now, for so many of the authors that I've had on, the books that they have shared with my listeners, it some are very personal in that the book is about their lives. Others have said we've taken bits and pieces of my life or even other people's lives and woven it into the story. And others will say, nope, it's 1,000% fictional. I made it all up, but I thought it was an amazing story to tell. Where would you say that you fall in that? Were you able to add any of your personal bits and pieces to the story, or did you keep it 100% fictional?
I kind of sort of weave some of my life story into to make it all fit, and there most of it is made up, but to make it flow, I did add some of my life stories in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no, listeners, we're not going to tell you which bits and pieces actually belong to her. You need to purchase the book, and then you can try to figure it out for yourself. I love it. And it's what I find to be so interesting is that especially when you do that in a book, is when your friends and family members purchase a copy and they try to figure out who are you talking about in the book. It's like, absolutely. So, listeners, definitely pick up a copy of the book, and especially, support your friends and family members, and especially women out there. If we use those hashtags, women supporting women, this is a great opportunity. Female author, purchase the book and give it to someone, another female, especially that loves to read. Keep that community going. I think that is an awesome thing to do. Now, for someone who is um, um, who may be struggling with a particular concept that you tackle in the book, how can how do you think your book will help them deal with that issue?
I think if they read the book and they realize that the character in the book, like I say, she has a strong personality and she perseveres through all the struggles and all the issues that she has going on in her life, and she perseveres until she realizes that God does have a plan for her. And at the end, she does get rewarded from God for the way that she went through. And she realized that she is blessed and God has been with her all along. I think that will help someone else to understand that, to hang on. Everything is not always, it's not always going down, but hang in there and everything will level out again in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is such good advice. People, and we read that in memes and stuff, and we see that online. But it's really interesting that we don't always believe it until we're in the middle of it. It's like it's not going to rain every day. The same way that it's not going to be sunshine every day. We need the sunshine and we need the rain in order to grow. So you are so right about that. Well, Jessie, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone of the title of this book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay, once again, the title of the book is Waiting for a Miracle. It can be purchased at www.iuniverse.com. It's also on Amazon, and you can get it at barnesandnoble.com. I can be reached on Facebook under Jessie Thompson.
I love it. All right, everyone, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. My name is Dr. Angela Butchester, but more importantly, my guest today is Jessie Thompson, and we're talking about her book, Waiting for a Miracle. I love the title of that because I think everyone in their own way is waiting for a miracle. And miracles do happen, y'all.
Yes.
Sometimes they're ones, sometimes they're big ones. They definitely do happen, and I love it. I love it. Now, as far as the message that you want to make sure that the reader takes away from having read your book, so I know that for some authors, it's like when you start off, there's a particular theme and a message. When you get to the middle, there's a particular theme or message. And when you get to the end, there's a conclusion. So there's another particular theme or message that they have planted in the book. Others say, nope, there's one message, one theme, and we try to carry that throughout the book. What is the takeaway that you want for your reader to get from your book?
A lot of times when you're going through things and trials in life, one of the issues that you have to deal with is family members, because family members seem to act like they know more about you than you know about yourself. But you have to realize that, sometimes you even have to put family members to the side and focus directly on God and let Him work with you and put you where He wants you to be.
Absolutely.
And that's my message.
Right. Man, I know someone is saying ouch, but hey, if that's you, then heed the message. It's like sometimes God is sharing with that author something that they need to share, and it's not about your version of that person, but about the version that God wants to share out there. I love that. I love that. For so many authors, their hope and their dream is to get a particular message out there. Like, I need to share about encouragement or about this life-changing experience that I've had. Others, like, it's one book and that's it. We know that you have other books that you have written. So for some authors, it's about, constantly sharing what God has shared with you. Do you think that as far as your future is concerned, that you will be the type of writer that is ever sharing, like always sharing the messages that God has placed on your heart? Do you wish to continue to write future books?
I do. I have a book that should be coming out in about another couple of months. It'll be ready to come out on and that book also is talking about God working with a very young person.
Now, I love that you include young people in your scenarios, and I think that is so important because the next generation is our future, and we definitely need to be mindful
Right.
about that. So, as far as the youth are concerned, do you have a message of inspiration or encouragement that you could share with them to make sure that even though we're starting to come out of the pandemic slowly but surely,
Uh-huh.
prayerfully, we're coming out of this. Do you have any words of encouragement for them during this time?
Yes, ma'am. God works with each and every person. He gave each of us a reason for being here. And it doesn't matter what your age is. God can work with you at any age. And that's what you have to focus on, your relationship, your personal relationship with God. And once you focus on your relationship with God, God will carry you where he needs you to be, and God will always take care of you.
Amen to that. That is so true. I know that a lot of our young people are trying to figure out their way, like spiritually, they're trying to figure out,
Yes.
where do I fit and what do I do? And that is such good advice. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, for someone out there that says, I like what she's doing. I like how she's talking about her book, and I too have been thinking about being an author. As far as your process, I want to kind of switch gears just a little bit. As far as your process of getting your book out there, did you find that you had to figure out whether or not you wanted to self-publish versus going to a publishing house? What were your thoughts on that? Or did you know straight up, I don't want to do it. I want to leave this to the professionals and let them do it. Or were you more so, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I want to start off, as far as all of your books are concerned, was your thought more so, I want to be in control of this process and I will figure it out myself? Where were you on that timeline?
Okay, when I wrote my first book, I was in a dark area in my life and I didn't know what to do. I was so confused. I didn't know where to go. So I just let the publishers handle it all. So when I got to my second book, I liked the way they put that together so professionally that I let them do the second book as well. But on the third book, I'm thinking about self-publishing because I know a little more about it. So I know a little more about what I want and how I want to carry it. So with my third book, I think I'm going to self-publish.
And I like how you framed that. When you don't know what you don't know, leave it to the professionals. But now that you do know a little
Right.
bit more, let's see what we can do. I think that that's a smart decision on your half. I really do. Now, when you were writing, did you find that you needed a particular atmosphere or environment? I know some people say I'm an early morning, like before the house wakes up, before the world gets moving. Other people like to do it at night, kind of like the world is sleeping. Did you have a particular time of day that you found that your writing, your creative mode was just really, really in flow?
I find that I'm the type of person that when I get bored, I just come up with these stories and I write them. And that's something that I had trained myself to do from a child because of the way I grew up. I like to be alone. I get to an area and I just start writing whatever comes in my head. And eventually I put them together and make a story out of it. And that's how I began writing.
Wow, I like that. I like that. You know, just in my recent memory, I just spoke with another author who kind of said the same thing. Just write the stories. Don't be so hard pressed on trying to connect them in the moment. Just get the story
Right.
out on paper, or like into your laptop. Just get that story out, and you can figure out how to connect them later. Okay, now
Right.
we must be to something there. So, all right, that is somebody out there who needs to hear it. I love it. I love it. Now, when it comes to selecting the cover for your book, I realize that for children's book authors, the process may be a little bit different because they have illustrations that need to go, throughout the book. But just choosing the cover of your book, be it that it's the cover or it's the actual image or even the font of the cover of your book, it all kind of relays a message to the person trying to make a selection on what they want to read. Because let's face it, we do judge a book by its cover, right? Even though we're not supposed to.
Yes. Right.
How it looks, right? How did you go about that process of determining what you wanted your cover to look like?
When I wrote my first book, because it was about my daughter, I put her picture on the cover. On the second book, like I said, I left it to the professionals. They gave me a bunch of pictures that I could go through, and I chose one for the second book. On the third book, I'm trying to draw, which is another one of my talents. I play around with drawing, and I sketched out the cover. So I'm getting ready to take it and see what I could do with it as far as putting it in color.
I love it. I love it. And it's gonna make, especially if it's your drawing, it's gonna make the cover even more unique because it's like she not only wrote it, she designed the cover. It's like we are just getting
right.
all of her. We're getting her spirit on this one. So I love it. I love it. Now, as far as since this is not only just talk radio, but it's faith talk radio, and I think that it's important for people to understand our guests as fully as we possibly can. So when it comes to your faith, not whether or not you go to church every Sunday or who your pastor is or any of those things, though they are important, not the question I want to ask you today, but I want to ask just from a personal perspective. How do you believe that your faith has really helped you walk your Christian walk? How do you think your faith helps you get through your day-to-day living?
A lot of my faith, just like I said about and the little girl in Waiting for a Miracle, a lot of my faith came from my parents, where, the things that they instilled in me. And I never knew anything about, what do you call that? I never knew anything about the storms of life until I actually hit a storm. And I realized during the time that I was going through this storm, it took everything in me to keep my faith in God. And I thank God that he stayed with me the whole time. So whatever you're going through, like I said, just keep your hand in God's hand. Let him hold on to your hand, and he will bring you through whatever storm you're going through.
Amen to that. You are so right. We definitely need to just remember that God is there for us, even in those dark times. He's definitely going to help us find the way out. I love it. I love it. Well, Jessie Thompson, I know that I have enjoyed my time with you here today, and I want to give you
thank you.
And I love it because we can hear the passion. We can hear that you are excited about where God has placed you, and that's what I love. I want people on the program that's like I say in the beginning, that's going to enlighten, inspire, or empower us. And sometimes just being around someone who is fired up about what they're doing, they help you catch fire for what you need to do for your life. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, before I let you go, I want to make sure that I give you a moment again just to mention some of the other books that you have written. If you could just give us the title of your other book Tell us a little bit about it. Of course, don't give it all away. And then waiting for a miracle. I want to leave that one for last so that we can end the show on that note. But I want to give you the next 2 minutes or so to just tell us about your other books as well.
My other book is entitled Behind the Doors of Reality, Tears of a Military Wife, and it's a mother's testimonial. And the title in itself will tell you basically what the story is about. It's like I said, it's a true story about my daughter. The first book is a true story. The next book that's coming up is entitled Escaping the Broken Pieces. And that's about a little boy who made a promise to God when he was really young, not even knowing if God existed. But he made a promise to give himself to God when he was really young. And he didn't realize that God chose him to be an ambassador. And he had to find out what an ambassador was. But he came through it. So I can't tell you the whole story, but that's the one that's coming up in the next couple of months.
Absolutely. I love it. That sounds good, too. I love it. I love it. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. I want to say that I know that you have inspired someone to write their story. You've inspired someone to not only pick up a copy of your book, but just be on fire for whatever God has called them to do. And I love it. One last time, if you could remind everyone, please, what is the title of this book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
The name of this book is Waiting for a Miracle, and you can purchase it at www.iuniverse.com. You can also purchase it at barnesandnoble.com, or it's also on Amazon. And I can be contacted on Facebook under my name, Jessie Thompson, and I'm presently located in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
I love it. Thank you again, Jessie, for spending time with us here today.
Thank you so much for spending time with me. I've enjoyed every second of it. God bless you.
You as well. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. We hope again that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day.